Now, from all the questions that people have asked, it's probably it's difficult to get started. But for both Inge and for Cherrie, and maybe we can spotlight Inge as well, if she's yeah, I think Inge is still with us, of course. Yeah, there you are. Even your camera works. Um, I'd like to start with one question that was actually asked by Mary Igbinoza, and I'm not sure if I pronounce your name well. Mary, are you in the call by any chance? I think Mary, you have joined the e-course from South Africa, and you've been also quite proactive on the curator platform.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I'm there. Good afternoon,
hi,
everyone.
good afternoon. Hi, Mary. Um, if that's okay with you, Mary, I'd like to just take the question that you posted on the platform uh, yesterday, I think, or maybe today, and post it and or put it to both Inge and Cherrie. And basically, your question is a very simple one because a lot of the talking about food systems, changing food systems, are about policy recommendations, things that need to be taken on board by policymakers. And Mary was rightfully asking, what if you are not a policymaker? What can you do in order to influence the food system in the right direction? And a lot of people on the platform responded to that question, so it really sparked a debate. So I would recommend everybody to kind of follow that also and chime in if you wish. And Cherrie, in a way, your whole story has been more or less an answer to that question, right? Because you're not a policymaker, but the amount of policy influence that you are able to generate is quite substantial. So I think your whole story speaks about that. So I'd like to ask Inge maybe to give your perspective. Of course, you're based in a knowledge institute, and I know you interact a lot with policymakers, with others. But if you imagine the audience of this call, our group of learners, some of us are NGO workers, some of us are farmers, some of us are entrepreneurs, some of us are scientists. What can we do if we are not a policymaker?
Yes, so that's the, I would say, $1 million question. And I said already in the beginning, we need to breed a whole basket full of innovations. And these innovations will not be done by the government. These innovations will be sparked from ideas that we have in this group, that farmers have. And I say that there's always a lot of emphasis on farmers, on production, going to market, but please also look into the food environment. These businesses, if you go to Benin or anywhere else, there are innovative ideas in producing different foods or delivering foods to households, which is very good for women who live in Islamic areas and are not allowed to go outside. So I think for the people online, I think we have the obligation to dig out what is actually already there and give them a voice. Let's see what's happening and try to scale it up, try to interest others into these innovations. Second, I think it's really important to build coalitions, and you don't need policies for that. Try to build coalitions of the unusual. Try to link yourself with areas that you normally don't talk to, or even you're afraid of. Try to have this disruptive discussions and get respect for opinions of others, and then you find a foundation to develop also new ideas. I presented a lot of policies because I'm working with the policy makers, but yeah, if I may be honest, I don't think the solutions will come from the policy makers, but they can support good solutions. And as scientists, we are also obliged to give the evidence that some of these solutions will work, and only based on evidence, decisions can be taken. And I'm not naive. I don't think that only providing evidence will give the policymakers the direction of the decisions. Not at all. But I think that is some of the things you can do. Personally, I changed to a vegetarian diet, for example. I'm not a vegetarian, and I just wanted to experience myself what it is to become a vegetarian while you're not convinced, that you should be a vegetarian. I'm actually surviving. So trying out yourself also helps a lot in understanding others. So I would like to stop there, and I really would like to discuss it with you because, well, you can see already that it's close to my heart, and I can discuss about it for more than an hour, and we don't have that time, Herman.
Thank you, Inge. And Cherrie, if we take the same question, and I know you've been telling stories about some of the initiatives that you've taken, and people in the chat have also been asking you, how have you dealt with some of the challenges that you've obviously faced? So maybe you can speak to that.
Oh, that's really wonderful. I think, Herman, I were talking about it last week. I eat stress for breakfast every day, but it's, drive you to really do better. So there are so many challenges, right? But I always say that you always need to dissect the chain where the challenge come from. So for example, connecting to Enga's point, for example, we have a challenge of food environments. So like for example, in the consumers that we're feeding, imagine 60,000 people daily. That's 5 times a day. Because Philippines, we eat 3 times, the breakfast, lunch, dinner, and in between snacks. But in that, before, when we were studying their food environments, these are all, imported fruits and vegetables that we cannot grow in the Philippines. And when we did a survey, what's your favorite fruit? Immediately, they said apple. Apple, it's not growing in the Philippines, right? So it was like a huge challenge. Apple is a huge challenge, It's like, why is your favorite fruit is not even growing in the Philippines? So we did that really study on the very educated workers, and we did a study together with the Department of Education way back for preschool students and elementary students, and their answers are apple, grapes, and pear. And so there's a problem in the food environment around them, the options around them. So what we did, we worked with chefs and nutritionists. What's really is Filipino diet, right? That we can cater to the demand of our consumers that they want to do planetary health. Of course, they don't want to remove a lot of meat in their diet, but at the same time, all of these companies said, Cherrie, can we offer two vegetables minimum in the cafeteria that you are feeding, together with Sodexo? It's because Filipino is the lowest vegetable eating country in Southeast Asia. So that's another layer of diet. The food environment is very important. And then the second is we're the lowest vegetable eating country. So what we did is we got chefs and nutritionists to design this very good plate that is really designed for Filipino diet, but also not forgetting the age of the people eating. Because when we dissect, it's mostly millennial and zillennials. So, they have this convenience notion of I'll just order from a convenience, store. But anyway, so we tackle this challenge one by one, but we get experts. We got the chefs, we got the nutritionists to design it, and then we got experts on the ground, agricultural production experts, to design it on the Philippine production pattern based on crop cycle. So in that sense, you're just actually a facilitator. I see myself as always facilitating in solving a problem. You always reframe how the problem is presented to you, and you get out from that problem and facilitate and get brilliant minds to solve the problem. So that's how we do it. And then second one is we always work with the government. A lot of private sector, they're allergic to work with government. They said, oh, government's not helping, government. But at the end of the day, government helps a lot because they own the road. They could, for sure, policy making. It cannot solve a lot, but it goes to the mayor level, to where the fight is happening. So it affects and unlock budget at the same time for farmers. So those are the things where I usually work on. You remove yourself from the equation, don't romanticize it. See yourself as a facilitator and get brilliant minds to solve the challenge. And another one, ask for help of different people, actors in the chain that could solve the problem.
Thank you very much, Cherrie. Now, if Inge, I'd like to ask you one final question, because you've been listening to Cherrie's story. What did you find most interesting from your perspective? Because you've studied food systems in many, many different countries, and you've worked with a lot of different actors and researchers over a long period of time already, I know. So if you listen to Cherrie's story, what kind of stands out for you as an interesting thing to either research or to point or to highlight, to zoom into? What would it be?
Yes, that's really a nice question, Herman. My first thought was, well, you see, there's a lot of emphasis on increasing production and the market, and then it stops, right? So my question would be to Cherrie is, did it have any influence on what people are actually eating? And then I was also thinking what you presented is also fitting into the model that I presented last. Is you worked on coalition building and networks. You worked on innovation. And what I liked was you worked on solving a problem by intervening in an area outside of where the problem actually exists. And I think that is the direction we have to go to. And you also linked to policies. So this three pathways to transformation. I think you hit the nail on the head. I would say. But my last question is, we are thinking about food system transformation. So to what extent, and it's a very difficult question, and I'm struggling with it as well, to what extent did your program indeed transform or contributed to a transformation of the system? And that are questions to, did you confirm the food system that are actually already is a dominant food system, but you operate within the existing food system? Or did you, challenge the powers within the existing food system? Did you give a voice to people that are normally not a voice? So these are questions that come to my mind if I listen to your presentation.
Oh, I love it so much, Inge. I totally challenged and broke some walls in this work. First, because when we present our work to big companies, right? If you're feeding 22,000, one company, one of our clients feeding 22,000 employees. And then when they present to us, my approach is like, oh, I'm into workforce nutrition, because these people who are working with you are breadwinners of Filipino families. They don't care. What they care is, in your work, how can we lower carbon footprint? How can we make our expenses and food cheaper? That's always like the bottleneck, because they're business people. It's too much for them to feed 22,000 people with healthy food. So what we did in that is I presented them a study, cost-based analysis, that if you import a lot of this food and then you feed your people with extremely processed food, how much is the sickness level of people? So there was a study before by the Department of Health in the Philippines that's why they become so strict on what people are being fed in factories, because they're being fed with highly processed food, and it causes so much diseases. A lot of them are high in absenteeism. They couldn't perform well. They have NCDs, diabetes and hypertension. And then we said, okay, if we change your system by giving you the same price, because we cut the layers of chain, it's the farmers, us, that we provide the warehousing, the entire setup to make it clean up to your standard and bring it to your kitchen to feed your employees. So this is the cost. And then from there, we call it inverted market basis. So you basically reverse your market. So if we feed your employees, for example, 22,000 employees daily, 5 times a day, with this diet that the nutritionist is offering, in your cafeteria, you now have minimum two vegetables. We hit the caloric requirement that the nutritionist is really providing. And this is the cost per plate. Compared to this cost per plate. And then this cost per plate has less carbon footprint. So it ticks the box of your ESG compliance to your investors. This is a societal impact. We have farmers that we can submit the number of farmers, the number of women included in the supply chain, and the governance we built to the farmers. And it's a CSR opportunity for your company. Every year we can bring your company members to these farming communities and have an activity with the farming communities. So we sell it in a way that we sexify the food system's transformation by influencing the design of plating for their employees, that it's healthy, it's impactful, less carbon footprint, and it brings back societal revenue to the farming communities. My goodness, it wasn't easy. Because, oh my gosh. But, when we did it, it was a domino effect. When one company gave us a say, and then I really, really need to mention JP Morgan gave us a break. When JP Morgan said, I love this because our investors are getting ESG. And then my second rebuttal, hopefully this is not compliance. This is serious business that you're not just complying for your ESG, but really make it as a core of your business practice. And they love it. And Inge, after that, Sodexo said, Cherrie, there are more and more companies wanting to join because they have good reports in terms of ESG. Their people now are performing well. They love going to their cafeteria than ordering online food because the cafeteria is so fresh and new. And then another one, I think, Inge, is because we know our clients are millennials and zillennials. They're always like, how can we help in mitigating climate change? So what we said, even if you're working in your office, you can actually help by the choices of food you make. So what we did is we also do manage food waste in the kitchen. So every time we deliver, of course, there are some imperfect fruits and vegetables. So to manage it, we food process it and we make it into their chow fan, we make it into dumplings, and then we put, like a note. This food is actually in the help for food waste of, in the chain. And then they love it. They would take a picture, they share it in their TikTok, they share it in their Instagram. And then a lot of their friends, what cafeteria is doing that? They said, our company cafeteria. Oh, we want our boss to also do the same. So, so we kind of analyze who are we really feeding. And because of this, how it reversed back to our work. But it's not easy. Every day we are trying to make the work really perfect and good. And there are just so many hiccups along the way. But hopefully, a lot of people will follow.
Thank you very much, Cherrie, for that extensive response. Very inspiring. And as you probably noticed, or maybe you didn't because you were listening and forgot the time, maybe you noticed that it's already past the hour. And, we have to start closing this session. So I really want to thank Cherrie and Inge for sharing so generously of all your experience and your wisdom. And I'd love to invite Bram now to maybe continue with sharing some of the practical tips that you need in order to get the best out of the e-course. Bram, over to you.
Thank you, Herman. And as we are already over the hour, I'll make it really short. So hold on for just 1 minute. It's just some practical tips for Curator. You all know this screen. Let's go one back. So this is how a module looks like. So we have around 12 blocks in each module. And you can choose which ones you want to do. So you don't have to do it chronologically. You don't have to go from the first one to the last one. Although I advise to always watch the first video, which is a sort of introduction to the module. You can choose which blocks you want to complete in order to unlock your gate assignment. You can also reply and vote to other people's comments. Most of you have seen it already. It's these buttons here. And you can also change the comments from best to most recent if you want to see who posted the latest, or if you are going chronologically through all the comments. Then the end of level gate is always available at the bottom of your screen, so you won't see it as long as you do not have 50%. Once you reach 50% of the experience, this will unlock, and then you have to click and upload an assignment on the gate assignment. When you've done that, you have completed the module. If you do this 4 times, you will earn your certificate. And then, of course, the leaderboards. Here is the updated one from today. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the session, we have a few people who are leading. You can also see the leaderboards yourself by going to the homepage, and at the bottom left, you'll see the leaderboard option here. If you click it, there's 6 different leaderboards. So there's experience, there's score, there's most comment of votes, most object views. So there's a lot of different factors. And last but not least, this overview you also see in the Network Cafe. So to quickly repeat that, we have 4 modules and the week of the 19th. So in 2 weeks, we have a break week. But for the people who are up to date and have done everything already, the first 2 weeks, we'll open the open space where we'll have some new learning blocks also related to AI. So if you want to practice your AI skills related to food systems, we'll have 2 blocks where you can do that, and where we go a bit deeper also into prompt engineering. So in the open space, you have the room to do content that also doesn't fit in any of the other modules. So beware, a new module will open in the break week. That's it for my part. So thank you all for coming.